Something that I've been wanting to do for a while as I'm going through these classes and understanding more about them is I've been wanting to build my own subclass. So we're doing that for the Cleric today. Hey fellow Game Masters, I'm Richard Quiner and welcome back to the RPG Daily, your daily dose of all things tabletop role-playing games, helping you build your world and master your game. Now, as I'm doing this subclass, the Divine Domain, we're going to make a Divine Domain today, I want you to follow along, make your own with me. Let's learn how to do this together. Before I jump into it, we're going to go to the computer screen for that and we'll talk over there. First, we're just going to run down what we're building. What is it? How is this Divine Domain kind of broken down? What are the basics we need to know from my analysis of the Divine Domains? So, building a Divine Domain, we got to look at all the moving parts for it. And so here's kind of what we're going to be building. First, we have to come up with a domain. A domain is the kind of the aspect of life, the part of nature that gods will look over. We're going to have to get minute with this. I think Wizards of the Coast has made so many Divine Domains already of the big broad stroke subjects that we're going to have to really focus in on something that we can use. I don't know what that is right now as I'm recording this here, but we'll figure that out. Next, we have to come up with spells, domain spells. You're going to be getting domain spells at levels 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. And those domain spell levels are going to be 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, respectively. So at level 9, you're getting 2 free 5th level spells. Does that make sense? So we're going to be coming up with 10 different spells that this domain is going to get for free. Are we going to make our own spells? Probably not. I don't think I want to tackle that with this subclass, but maybe later I do want to do a video on spell creation and learn more about that with you guys. But for this one, we're going to stick with what's in the book and we're just going to do some research and find some cool spells. Now, the features of a Divine Domain have some variables, right? They always happen on the same levels. You always have a 1st level thing, a 2nd level thing, you have a 6th level thing, a 8th level thing, and then a 17th level thing. Those are your things you get. At the 1st level, a lot of times it's extra proficiencies, it's possibly a cantrip or some other small ability that is just a little bonus. It's not too powerful, but it could help. I like the idea of extra proficiencies because that's simple, but I don't know yet. We have to see what our domain is going to be. At the 2nd level, you get a Channel Divinity ability, which has to tie in. It has to follow the same rules as Channel Divinities do. So it's limited number of uses. It has to be connected to the domain through the deity because that's how you get this ability. There were a lot of domains that kind of had a twist on turn undead, where they could turn a different type of creature, and that could be something we could use depending on the domain we decide. But that's something to think about, is this Channel Divinity is going to be a big part of this Divine Domain. At level 6, it's another ability. This one's a little more random. It could be a support ability. It doesn't have to be damage dealing necessarily. But it also could just be another Channel Divinity. Really, we'll have to see how we feel when we get to level 6, but this is always one that just kind of goes under the radar a little bit. Level 8, there is this pattern in Divine Domains. You get either Potent Spellcasting, which adds your Wisdom modifier to Cleric cantrips, or you get a Divine Strike, which adds damage of some sort of type to your weapon attacks. So we'll pick between those. I don't want to get too far off base with this one. I don't want to come up with my own ability here. So I'm probably going to stick with Divine Strike and we'll just pick a type of damage that we can add to our weapon attacks. Because that also comes into play at level 14 and it makes you feel a little more powerful too. Level 17 is kind of the epic ability for the Clerics. So it has to, of course, connect to the domain, right? It has to be something that you previously used. I did see a pattern a lot of times on this level 17. It was tied to a Channel Divinity. So possibly that's something we could do when we figure out our level 2 Channel Divinity. We could make our 17 epic thing a way to kind of upgrade that or get some more utility out of that Channel Divinity. That is a pattern I saw in the Divine Domains. I also saw other ones that weren't connected to it and were just cool powers. So that's kind of what we're dealing with. We have to come up with a domain. We have to come up with spells. We have to come up with abilities for levels 1, 2, 6, 8, and 17. So that's it in a nutshell. It's going to be a doozy of a project, so buckle up. This is going to be a long video. So jumping back into the computer screen view, the problem I have here is last time I did this, it took about an hour and a half. I built the whole Divine Domain from scratch. So I was doing the research right here on camera with my computer. And then I realized my computer wasn't actually recording the screen, but I didn't realize that till after I was done. So I have the Divine Domain already built. And so I'm going to try to still walk you through the process I took building the Divine Domain, but just understand it won't be as exciting for me at the moment because I've already done this before. But I do want to share the process I went through and talk about, the choices I made and why. Anyway, so the Cleric Divine Domain, I had been thinking about what kind of domains to make and what would work. And then I had mentioned briefly the idea of a luck domain, and someone said, oh, you build that. So I said, okay, I'll build that one. So luck, we got to define what it is, right? So luck, in my opinion, is something that takes apart in all walks of life, really, if you think about it, from farmers and people who rely on some sort of luck and nature for their livelihood. The lower class depend on luck for that, to find their big break, to find something to give them a leg up. Then you also have the other side of gamblers and a little more of the cutthroats who rely on luck to get something done and get out of harm's way, I guess you could say, or for gambling, to win their big pot at the end of the night. Those kind of things are in the luck domain, right? And there's a lot of different aspects you could look at it, but I decided because it's that kind of context for luck, that it's everyone, a lot of different gods would have dominion over this domain. Like, I'm thinking gods like Timora and Ogma would also probably fit into this. Helm could fit into luck because he deals with life and light and kind of some good stuff. So a lot of different domains could fit in. So first up on my sheet here, I'm going to type in domain. I'm going to put luck. And I'm just doing brief notes. I'm not going to do like the full write-up. Effects, all walks of life. I also got a new keyboard recently, so I'm terrible at typing. I'm terrible at typing with the old keyboard too, but I'm still bad at typing. All walks of life. Farmers, gamblers, business people. It is the unknown. It's called the unknown side of fate that makes everything fall into place or fall apart. Beep, beep, boop. I'm gonna write deities. I'm just gonna put down right now, I'm gonna do Timora and Ogma. I believe that's spelled right. Ogma. So that's the domain. So once you have the domain kind of decided for clerics, that makes setting up the rest of the cleric a lot easier because you know what your focus is going to be and you know what you're trying to do. So then the next thing I would like to do is do spells, right? So we want to do our spells. I make this easy for me. I'm going to insert a table. And so spells, you have 5 different levels of spells, and each level has 2 spells. So I'm actually just going to do a 2x5 table here, insert that, and I'll drag this over because I don't need that much space over there. And I'm actually going to do that. So we get these at level 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. So every other level. So I'm going to write level 1, boop, level 1, level 3, and level 9. And the spell slots we know are going to be using spell slots levels 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that makes it pretty easy in, remembering what I do. I wrote down the level you get the spell, but then the spell slots just go up 1 every time. So thinking about the spells, I wanted to come up with spells that do 2 things, or one of 2 things. First off, well, here's my criteria I'm looking for. I didn't want to have all cleric spells. I was allowed maybe 1 per level would be a actual cleric list spell. But the whole point, for me, part of the fun of the cleric domain is picking spells that aren't from the cleric list, or being able to have access to those through the cleric spells. So I wanted at least 1 on every level had to be a non-cleric spell. I also wanted spells that would influence the game and the luck a little bit more. This could be spells that give advantage on things. These could be spells that raise the modifiers of other things, something that boosts the luck. It could also be things that diminish the luck of the opponent, that sort of thing. I wanted to make it a cleric who could influence the luck both in the world of the game, so you're playing at the table, you have numbers, you're hitting something, you have luck on your side when you hit. And those in turn almost always influence the luck outside of the game, or meaning at the table. The players have their luck. So I was doing a little bit of both, and I think I came up with some good spells, and I'm going to walk you through that a little bit. So when I was looking for spells, I used D&D Beyond because basically I kind of stopped using the paper books, and part of that is I live in a smaller apartment. I don't have a ton of space for all the books. I don't have a dedicated D&D room, which would be nice to have one day. So I use D&D Beyond because I can get all the books digitally, and like I can put on my cell phone. I can have all the books in my pocket, easy and simple. I can do it on a tablet. I can get it online, and the way they've organized it on D&D Beyond, that's my rambling about D&D Beyond. I do like going in here to game rules, and then I can go to the view all spells button right up here, and it just lists all the spells, and then I can sort it by spell level. So here we're going to do first level spells, filter the list, and then I will go through this and look for things. To fast forward a little bit, I picked 2 spells on this. I picked one was Bless. Bless is the spell where you pick some characters or some players, and they get to add a 1d4 to any attack roll or saving throw for a minute. It's a concentration spell, so that's ties in. It's important that you have concentration spells, I think. That, I think, makes the cleric a little harder to play, but that is, that's that first one I picked. The second one, and yes, this was a normal cleric spell, so the second one had to be not a cleric spell, right? So the one I picked, which is a little weird, bear with me as I talk about this, it's actually a ranger spell, and I think other ones can use it too. It's Hunter's Mark. So to the ranger and the Oath of Vengeance paladin get this normally, but it's also a concentration spell for 1 hour, cast as a bonus action. What you do essentially though is you can magically mark an enemy, and then you get to deal extra damage to that enemy, a 1d6 bludgeoning damage to that when you hit it with a weapon attack. But then you also have advantage on wisdom and perception and survival checks to find the target. So that, I think, it just... You know, thinking about it now, it's not as great. Coming back and revisiting, it's not as good as I would have liked. So let's find a different one, actually. Let's find a different spell. For some reason, I thought Hunter's Mark gave the other party members advantage on some attacks, but I was incorrect. Guiding Bolt is a cleric spell already, so we're not doing that one. Identify illusory script. So now you're actually seeing the process as it plays out, as I have to find the spells. Shield. Okay, Shield is actually a good one. It just gives you an instant +5 to your armor class as a reaction, and it lasts for 1 round. So it's actually not super powerful, but this could also tie into the and it protects you from all damage from magic missiles, so if you get hit. But this could be considered luck, where like suddenly, you know, you got a little divine shield going on. I know they have Shield of Faith right here. It gives you +2, and it lasts for 10 minutes, and it's a concentration. But I think for luck now, I'm thinking Shield would actually be the better option. Shield. Final answer. So now, then I would go to second level spells. And here again, I'll show you the ones I picked, and I may change that. I don't think I will change it on this one though, because these ones made a whole lot of sense to me. Filter spells. The first one was Enhance Ability, which I believe was on the second page. Yeah. Enhance Ability. This one, you get to touch a target creature and then give them an enhancement to one of their abilities, so they can bear endurance, bold strength, dexterity. You basically you give someone advantage on one of the different ability checks for an hour if you hold the concentration. So I think I pick that because I feel like it affects the luck at the table, as well as, you know, maybe you're trying to do some stealth and someone might not be so stealthy, so you could give them advantage on stealth checks for the next hour or on dexterity checks. So I think that is pretty good in my opinion, which is why this was my one of my second level spells. This is also, though, this is a cleric spell, so the next one of course has to not be a cleric spell. But I kind of cheated on that rule, because the next one I picked is already used in one of the divine domains, but it's not normally for clerics, right? That's how it is. I picked Mirror Image, which is an illusion spell, because this one plays directly into, you know, the luck of getting hit, because you create mirror images and then you have to roll the die to see if those actually get hit or not. And I think that plays well into the luck side of things. And I just think it's a neat one. This is a trickery domain spell normally. But I liked it for this one, so I picked Mirror Image as my second spell of my level 2 spell slots. So now, moving on, let's go to third. Third level spells, I picked 2 that are, I don't believe either of them are Cleric spells, which was good. The first one I picked was Haste. Haste is it's a way to boost your abilities in an instant, or somebody else's. It is another concentration spell, so I think that it goes into wanting to be able to survive those concentration spells a little better. But you gain a +2 to your armor class, and you have advantage on dexterity saving throws. You can use, it gains in a new action every turn, so you have other options as well, but it just speeds up the character. And I thought that was fun to be like, okay, you are now faster, you have better chance of surviving an attack, you have more opportunities to hit, which, you know, quantity, sometimes it's a numbers game. You swing more, you're bound to hit more, kind of thing, was my thoughts on this one. So I said Haste is my first 3rd level spell to gain at level 5. And then my second one is Lightning Bolt. Now, I picked Lightning Bolt, and this was the one I was like, maybe it'll change when I go revisit it. But right now I'm feeling good about it still. I picked Lightning Bolt because it is a damage dealing spell, and I wanted to have some of that included in here. I don't have a lot of damage dealing in these spell slots. But I also liked the theme of like lightning, and lightning doesn't strike twice. The idea that, you know, someone getting hit by lightning is you know, 1 in a million chance. The only thing that's harder to do than get hit by lightning is to win the lottery. So that's kind of where I liked this idea, because it wasn't so much a theme of influencing luck, it was more of the theme of the luck. It's just a lucky symbol, you know, of getting hit by lightning. So I picked Lightning Bolt. This one could change later on as I revisit it, and obviously when I publish this, when this goes live, it's not play tested in any way, shape, or form, so there's that. Moving on to the next spell slot level. I lost my mouse cursor, there it is. Moving on, we're going to remove the 3rd level, we'll add the 4th. Filter these. This is how I use D&D Beyond to like make stuff quickly, or to just get the research done fast, because flipping through a book takes too much time. You have to look up the page, other things on, you have to go to the page, you got to read it, you got to not lose it, and if you need to go somewhere else, you're stuck. That's why I kind of like this one. So for this one, I picked some spells I picked one that would affect another creature first, and that was Confusion. I liked the idea that you could use your spell to confuse a creature so much that they would have to roll die and rely on the luck of the die to determine where they actually go and what they do. I thought that was an interesting idea, so I picked Confusion. Again, it's a concentration spell, so you have to hold it for the full minute, but I thought it was a really good one. Confusion. Boom. Confusion. I liked the use of a table is really fun to me. I liked having that as an option. The next one I picked was actually, it's more to see the future. It's more to understand what's going on somewhere, and it's called Divination. And this is asking a question about an event that could happen within 7 days in game time, and the DM has to reply truthfully. It's not so much luck. I guess it's playing with the luck is how I kind of saw this one. It's not relying on the luck of the dice. That's a for sure thing. But it's being able to influence the future by understanding what's coming up. So you ask a question about a future event. The DM gives you an answer. You can approach that event a little more cautiously. I consider that lucky. I think that's a good use of the spells. That's why I picked Divination. 5th level spell slot. So we're almost done with the spells now. 5th level spell slots. These I actually picked some fun ones that I really enjoyed. When I saw them, I was like, these are good. I have to use these. The first one is called Mislead. I'm going to pull it up before I explain it. Mislead. All right. It's an illusion. And it says you become invisible at the same time that another mirror image, an illusory double of you, appears where you're standing. And then for the next hour, that double is in your place and you're invisible. So you can lose your invisibility by attacking things, but you can also use your action to make the illusion move around and act like you. So, and you can see in here through its senses. So you can see through its eyes and hear through its things. So you could basically put yourself out of harm's way with it. And I just thought that's a fun, like, it ties into mirror image pretty good, I think. And I just really liked that idea. The next one I actually liked even more. So the last spell on the spell list is really funny because it is a healing spell. It is a reviving spell, and it's called Reincarnate. Now, it comes with a table. This spell works when you cast the spell. It takes an hour to cast, and then the effect is instant. So it's not a concentration spell. It is not a cleric spell either. This is normally a druid-only spell, but what happens essentially, you use the spell on a dead creature that has been dead for less than 10 days, and the spell actually forms a new body for that creature. So you have to roll a d100 on the table, and its body will turn into whatever is on the table. So you could take a creature of any race and turn it potentially into any other race. So you could have a dragonborns, tieflings. You could take a human and turn them into a rock gnome. You could take a dwarf and turn them into a tiefling. That kind of thing, where it's the same character, but now they're in a new body. It changes its racial traits. Yeah. So it's kind of an interesting spell that is just all about the luck. And that's why I picked that one. So Reincarnate. Even though it seems really shady, I feel like that would be something that a luck god would enjoy. You know, a luck deity would enjoy the risk of the reincarnation. All right, so that's the spells laid out for you there. Now we have to come up with the abilities. The clerics get the stuff at level 1. They get a level 2 thing. They get a level 6 thing. And they get a level 8 thing. 8. And last, they get a level 17 thing. So now the question is, what kind of things do we give the players at these different levels? Early on, level 1, it's always been a proficiency or some very, very minor ability that they can use. I wanted to stick with proficiency. I think that's fun, and that gives some, extra stuff. So we're just going to call it extra proficiency. Whoops. Once I get my mouse in here. I'm actually going to tab over and do extra proficiency. See, I can't spell. Extra proficiency, and I'm going to do it in sleight of hand. And here's the fun part. Here's where the luck comes into play. I'm going to do a roll of d20 because I think that's fitting because it's Dungeons and Dragons. Roll 1d20. If it's 1 to 10, you gain proficiency in martial weapons. If it is 11 through 20, it is heavy armor proficiency. The reason is because I personally don't look at this as super specialized in any one thing. But there is some concentration spells, so heavy armor would probably work well in that. But I could also see it using maybe its enhanced ability or maybe some other things to use a martial weapon. Honestly, more than that, though, I feel like it needed a little something extra at level 1 than just a sleight of hand proficiency boost, and I wanted to have it as something luck related, so I came up with that idea. I don't know if it works. I don't know if it even matters with this class. If I can think of something else to do at level 1, I would, but right now, nothing's really coming to mind, so that's what we're doing on that one. Level 2 is a Channel Divinity. Channel Divinity is Turn Undead is the main one that everyone gets. It's a limited use ability that you can do, divining your Holy Spirit, the divine magics that you have access to. You channel it in through use your holy symbol and manifest whatever it is. So there is an ability that the wizards get. So I'm going to go here to wizard. Another reason I like D&D Beyond. So I pull up the wizard, and there's a certain class that is School of Divination, and they get a thing right here called Portent. I'm going to scroll in so you can maybe read it better. Portent, right here, okay? So what this says, at second level, when you choose the school, of divination, glimpses of the future begin to press into your awareness. And when you finish a long rest, you roll 2d20s and record those numbers down. And then you can use those numbers later on to replace any attack, saving throw, or ability check made by you or another creature that you can see. But you have to pick to use that number before you actually make the roll, or before they actually make the roll. So you basically roll 2, and you're like, these numbers can come into play at any point in the day. So once you use the number, though, you can't use it again. It's gone, and then after a long rest, it comes back, or you have the chance to roll again. I wanted to change that. I wanted to use that because I felt like that was such a good luck-based thing. So I wanted to change that up. So I decided to call this one, what did I call it? Divine Fate. Divine Fate. And so I actually cheated. I'm gonna just copy this. I'm cheating because I can't type very fast. So, oops. I'm gonna do that. Tab over there, and then boom. So I cheated. I'm writing that in there. So yeah, the Channel Divinity. It basically, you use the Channel Divinity. You roll the dice. You can then hold on to those for the next day, right? I think the other stipulation would be, though, if you use that Channel Divinity again, like, you can use it again, but that would also get rid of the previous numbers that you had rolled. So you can't sit there and stack and collect a bunch. You can really only have 2 active at a time, but you also have the luck chance to do it again. Maybe you get better numbers. That kind of thing could happen. I think that was a really fun Channel Divinity for me to come up with, because I do enjoy the portent side of divination wizards. I still need to do a whole series on the wizards. There's a lot to pick up on, but I wanted to do that one. So at level 6, I had another idea that I wanted to do that I also stole from another class that deals with luck a little bit. I'll show you here. Actually, we'll go up here. In the game rules, we go to Sorcerer this time. The Sorcerer has a couple of features in it. And if we go to Wild Magic, they have a thing called a Wild Magic Surge, where if you cast a spell, a die is rolled. If it gets like a 20, I think, then you have to roll a d100, and then a different effect could take place. So it's basically, it symbolizes that the sorcerer isn't skilled, they're not trained with their magic, it just comes naturally. And the Wild Magic Sorcerer is especially volatile in casting spells and having something backfire. That's kind of the idea. But clerics also have the thing called meta magic. So meta magic uses sorcery points, but it gives different changes to each spell as they use it. So empowered, you get to re-roll a number of damage dice. The extended spell increases the length of the spell. A heightened spell, a quickened spell, it decreases the casting time. These kind of things, and sorcerers normally can spend points to have these effects. I wanted to come up with a table for the luck cleric that would emulate this a little bit without being too overpowered, too over the top, and would also be just a fun mechanic to throw in the game. So level 6, I called it, what did I call it? I called it Wild Luck Magic. Not a great name, but that's what I'm calling it for now. And I'm actually not going to type out the whole table, but I'll copy and paste it in, and I'll show you guys what I had come up with, because I thought I came up with a decent table here. So, Wild Luck Magic. So when the cleric casts a level 1 spell or higher, I made that so it wouldn't really come into play with cantrips. You can roll a d10, so also not 20 options, and then the spell adopts a trait from the table. So on the table, and these are in no particular order right now, I just made sure I had a couple that would do something interesting, and first off, 1 through 3, the spell is cast as normal and no new effect. So there is a chance that when they cast the spell, nothing special happens. But then there's also, on top of that, there's a 10% chance that any of these other things could happen. So you have Twinned Spell, which means if you roll a 1, you would get to basically cast the spell a second time. This would have some specifics. Like this would be when you cast a spell that targets a certain creature, only one creature, and doesn't have a range of self. You can spend it, you can double it. So that would mean if they try to cast a fireball, for example, they roll this and it says twinned. The fireball does not only target one creature, it's an AoE spell. So then the roll would be null, is kind of the idea I'm thinking. That would keep it from being too powerful, because their ability has to, or their spell that they cast has to also fit with whatever they rolled. The Quicken spell would be, instead of a casting time of 1 action, you can cast it for a bonus action. This wouldn't really affect the spells that take a minute or an hour to cast. These would just the actions. So if they cast, or it wouldn't even affect a bonus action. So if they cast the spell as a bonus action and tried Quicken, it wouldn't do anything. That's the idea. And they accident, if they rolled Quickened, I should say. Empowered, you get to re-roll a number of damage die. This is fine because it would be equal to the modifier. I would change this. This has Charisma modifier. I would change it to the Wisdom modifier with the minimum of 1. That's what I kind of like that one. It's simple. It's a very powerful one. Probably too powerful. That one could come into play if it's a fireball. You roll several d6s or d8s. I forgot what the number is. They could get better if you roll, others. If you re-roll the poor bad ones. That's why I liked that one. Then I came up with some other ideas for myself that were good ways to give a bonus to this. The first one would be a focused spell. I said no concentration required. This would be if you cast a spell that is a concentration spell, that spell would maintain for the duration without you having to maintain concentration yourself. I took that one from the idea of the warding glyph, and that fact that one thing can cast a concentration spell and hold it for the duration. So that could be a 7. An 8 would be a healing burst. It heals just one target within an area for 1d8 hit points. Real basic, not too overpowered healing, but it's a little bit. Then I also gave it a damaging burst. The same, one target within 60 feet for 1d8 hit points of damage. This would be probably force damage, I think, or any kind of damage. It could be the same damage as the spell if the spell had damage. I'll have to figure out how to phrase that properly. And then last, this one I also liked. I took it from another place. You regain the lowest level expended spell slot. So if you're casting spells and you roll the 10, you'll regain a spell slot of whatever is the lowest level you have an expended spell slot. I kind of like this table because it does bring a lot of the luck into it. I will have to give more of a listing and more of an explanation in the write-up, of course. But this, you get the idea of where I'm going with it, as it's just, like a wild luck, a luck magic surge kind of thing that happens. And I think that's fun. Level 8, you normally have, as a cleric, you have 2 options at level 8. Really, you have potent spellcasting and divine strike. A potent spellcasting comes in, and it is, you add your wisdom modifier to any cleric cantrips that you cast. It's fine. It's fine. It's not great. It's fine. But I didn't want to go there. I wanted to do divine strike because I like the idea of divine strike that at level 14, the potential damage increases. I like that. So then the question is, what is the damage type? Because we all know every divine strike can have a different type of damage that usually relates to the domain. So like light and life were being radiant damage. You have necrotic damage from death. So you have different options here. But I decided to go a different route with my level 8. I'm just going to paste it in because I wrote the whole paragraph out. Or I kind of copied it and changed it. But I decided to go ahead and use force damage. Right here, force damage. Force damage is generally the magic. It's kind of an arcane damage type. If you watched my video on damage types, I explain that a little bit more in detail. As it's just a magic oomph force. And so I thought that was kind of cool. And I hadn't seen it used by any other domains. So I wanted to do that one. I could be wrong. Oh no, Arcana domain doesn't even get divine strike. They have potent spellcasting. So I hadn't seen force being used by any of the domains, so I wanted to do something a little different there. Not that it really matters. It only really matters if you're going up against creatures who are, resistant or immune to force damage. That's where you run into problems. But you can have that same problem with every other damage type too. You could have creatures that are resistant or immune to anything. So that's the problem. So then the last one, it had to be something that was pretty powerful. And I'm going to show you what I decided. I'm going to use it for now, but I'm trying to rethink it because I feel like it might be a little too late. A little too little, too late. But basically, I'm giving the lucky feat to the player, except they're gonna get 4 luck points per long rest instead of 3. That's the gist of it. It's not crazy powerful. And I've seen others where, like the Tempest domain, I think you can fly if you're not underground. Those kind of things, I feel like they're not super uber powerful. And that's probably because the Cleric as a class becomes very powerful on its own right. And so the domains don't have to pander to that so much. But this one I felt really good about. I was like, you know what, the lucky feat is really cool. It's good to have for everybody to change the luck. But I think having it be a thing so the player doesn't have to take that feat to get it later. They still get all the abilities. The other downside I have of it is it's level 17. The player may not even get there. But I felt like giving the lucky feat at a too early of a level, like if I were to make it a 2nd level, you get the lucky feat. Though I could change that. Instead of the proficiency, I could change it and say, here, you get the lucky feat, but you get 2 luck points per day. I think I cracked it. Now I have to come up with something for level 17. Great, we just broke my domain. This is fine. I'm going to go here. I'm going to switch this out. So I'm going to come back up here, get rid of this proficiency here. Except the Cleric gets... Should I give him 2 or 1? I'll give him 1. We'll start with 1. Alright, so then I come down. I have to type down here a little bit because I need the screen to be a little higher up, so it's always weird. Okay, so level 17. Now we're back to the drawing board on this one. Because I have no idea how to make this lucky. So now you see the problem here is I'm trying to think of something new for the thing. So I'm going to actually just go check out the Clerics real quick, and I'm going to go to the Trickery domain because that's the closest one. Improved Duplicity. I don't like that. I don't like that. Oh, let's see what I got here. Though, okay. I have my Channel Divinity. I could improve my Channel Divinity. That could be something. So instead of, maybe instead of rolling 2d20s, I improve it to be like 4d20s every day. Or I could make it so you can actually stack them if you use your Channel Divinity. I don't know if that really plays well for me. That doesn't feel right. What does these guys do? This one, Order, you get to have someone hit somebody. War, you get to gain resistances. I'm kind of thinking it might be good to give some more defensive ability or something that can help in that regard, where maybe if you get hit, maybe whenever you take damage, you roll a die and then you can reduce the damage received, possibly. I did like the luck feat, but I also now looking at it, I'm like, you know what, I like having it come in earlier. I do really like this idea. You know what, I do want to change this to 2 luck points. Because I want to have them some incentive to get that. Then they don't have to get the lucky feat, but they could, I guess. Then they'd get 6. That would be like a min-maxing optimization thing, and I'm not going to be the one to say no to that. If someone would want to use their lucky feat, I personally think that's kind of a waste at that point, but that's up to them. Back to this level 17 debacle we've got, though. Back to this. Lucky needs something to be flipped or something to be rolled. I feel like that. I feel like that is what it has to be. Something has to be... You have to take the risk. Okay. So option A is maybe they use their portent, their divine fate thing. Maybe they can see what the roll is before they decide to use the die. I feel like that's weak. The other idea could be maybe the luck can have more uses. Maybe we double that up. Maybe we just increase, the lucky feat thing from the beginning to 4 or 5 luck points a day. That could be an increase. Maybe we can do something with their portents and we can increase their portent uses. Similar to Invoke Duplicity. Invoke Duplicity is like you create 1 illusion of yourself, and then they improved it, and then you create 4 illusions of yourself suddenly. Maybe something like that. So like instead of 2, you get 4 or 5. I already talked about that one. I really want to have something where they can risk losing. So I want something that requires a die roll maybe. But I also don't want it to be debilitating to the character. I want them to have a reason to want to play this and to want to use it. But it can't be too powerful. This is the hard part. This is the hard part of creating these things. And when I do the barbarian one, it's going to be even harder because it doesn't have the same structure. Ugh. No, here's what we're going to do. I do want it to be somewhat defensive, but I want it to have also limitations to it. So we're going to say as a reaction, when you hit by an attack, roll a d20. And then it's going to be pretty simple. We're going to give half chance to be resistant to the damage. 1 through 10. Take 1/2 the damage. I feel like this is kind of a weak sauce, but you know what? It's 11 through 20. Take full damage. Ooh, what if I had like one where it's like take double damage? That! I think we did it. I think that was it, actually. No. Okay. Why would you want to do this? Well, we need to change the numbers. If you roll a 1 through 16, we got to think of percentages. So what would be the percentages that, yes, you can take half the damage, right? This is a numbers game. Maybe I'm going to start with 1 through 15, you take half damage. And then 16 through 20, you take double damage. That is a much bigger risk, though. Or what if I said it 1 through 15, you take no damage? You evade the attack, and you take nothing. That, I think, is more fitting. So it's like you roll the d20 as a reaction. Ooh, no, even better. As a reaction, when you are hit by an attack, you may spend 1 luck point to roll 1d20. If you get 1 through 15, you take no damage. If you roll 16 through 20, you take double damage. So what you're looking at here is, first off, it has to be a reaction, so you can't spam it. Second off, you're limiting them by the amount of times they can do it in a day by having it expend a luck point. Maybe they can improve. Maybe we can put something in the first level, so at another level they do bump up to 4. I think that would be fitting at this point to have 4 luck points a day. Roll the d20, 1 through 15, you take no damage. You have a 75% chance of taking no damage. That's how those numbers lay out. Then you have a 25% chance of taking double damage. Is that worth it? Would you take that risk? I think I would. This could use some playtesting, but I do like it now. Coming up with the luck point thing, I like that. That felt more balanced. So now we're going to go back to level 1. And we're going to... I don't know why that got left there. So we're going to do luck defeat, except the cleric gets 2 luck points per long rest. At level... We're going to say at level 6. Yeah, level 6. The cleric has 4 luck points. That increases their luck per long rest. I think that works. All right, so now let's run through this real quick to wrap this up and send you back on. This is... You saw some of the process. You saw some of the brain work that I took coming into this, so you still got a glimpse in how I made this domain. So it is luck domain. Impacts a lot of things. You pray to Timora or Agma or one of the luck domains deities out there. Your spells you get at level 1, you'll get Bless and Shield. Level 3, you get Enhance Ability and Mirror Image. Level 5 is Haste and the Lightning Bolt. Level 7 is Confusion and Divination. Level 9 is Mislead and Reincarnation. You know, to bring somebody back and have a risk of them not having their same body. Level 1, you get the extra proficiency of Sleight of Hand, and you get the lucky feat. In a nutshell, I'm going to call it something else. You get the lucky feat, except the cleric has 2 luck points per long rest. At level 6, the luck points increase to 4 per long rest. At level 2, you get the Channel Divinity, a Divine Fate. When you get to, as you cast the Channel Divinity, it isn't just when you finish a long rest. You roll 2d20s and record the numbers you roll, and those may replace any attack roll, saving throw, or ability checks made by you or a creature you can see. But you must pick to use those, or you must choose to use those numbers before the die is rolled. You can do that once per turn. But then whenever you use a Channel Divinity again, it would remove that. So you have Channel Divinity limitations in place. At level 6, you get the Wild Luck Magic, which is you cast a first level spell or higher, you roll the d10, and the spell gets a trait from the table included, which is 1 through 3 is no new effect, it is normal. 4 is a twinned spell, 5 is quickened, 6 is empowered, 7 is a focus, no concentration required. 8 is a healing burst of 1d8 for a target creature. 9 is a damaging burst of 1d8 for a target. And at level 10, you regain your lowest expended spell slot. That's luck. At level 8, you get Divine Strike. You infuse your weapon with 1d8 force damage, which increases to 2d8 force damage at level 14. And at level 17, when you are hit by an attack, as a reaction, you may spend 1 of your luck points to roll a 1d20. If you roll 1 through 15, you take no damage. If you roll 16 through 20, you take double damage. I think it's also important to note, I'm just going to real quick, this does take into account the resistances. I think most people would just go along with that. They're like, yeah, it's resistant. I'm resistant to fire, so even if I take full double damage, I'm still resistant. They would do that. Resistances and vulnerabilities. Yeah, so that I think is a decent level 17. So there you have it, folks. My Luck Domain Cleric, version 0.1. I am going to have to take this into Homebrew, the website there, and probably write it up and make it pretty, something I can actually publish. And then I will publish it, and it will be available for you shortly. I don't know if I'll have it done by the time this video is up, because I'm actually recording this portion of the video the day before the video is supposed to go up. So I got a lot happening, but it will be up soon, if not already. Coming back to a pre-recorded message, I've hoped you enjoyed this making of a divine domain. It was interesting, to say the least. I will put the link to this divine domain, kind of a PDF, in the description so you can download it and take a look at it. Remember, though, it is not playtested. We made this up, and I'm publishing it. That's all I'm doing. I would like to get a chance to playtest it. I think that would be fun to playtest any of these subclasses that we're making, but right now that hasn't happened. But if I do, that link will be updated with the new versions. I'll let you know. Anyways, I've been Richard. Thanks for watching.